Yeah, in 1980, after I had been working with the kids in school making projects related to whales, I had a dream, and I woke up from the dream, and the dream was that I was standing on a beach looking out at the water when these two whales' tails came up out of the water. And I remember seeing the water cascading off of the tails, watching them, and when I awoke, I realized that was something I was going to need to do in some form of a sculpture. And originally I thought it might make a good fountain with water coming off of them, but I later decided it would be better to use the earth, whatever surface it might be on, grass or otherwise, as an imaginary ocean surface, so that people could get right up to the pieces and actually touch them and feel the scale of whales. I figured out that I could make each tail in two pieces, and with steel pins and epoxy attach the flukes on top of the vertical part of the tail, which is what I did, and which is the piece called Reverence that ended up spending 10 years on the Exit 4 site in Randolph, which belonged to this guy whose name was David Threlkeld. After 10 years on this site, the owner found he had to sell both the land and the sculpture. A group of people in South Burlington who owned Technology Park ended up buying it from them and hired me to move them from Randolph to Burlington.
You know, the Preservation Trust was formed in 1980, and the whale's tails, the original sculpture, was installed in 1989, and it was here until 1999. And as part of my job, all these years, I've done a lot of traveling around the state, really been to just about every community in the state, traveled Interstate 89 a lot. I would often stop along the way, because every time I stopped and had a chance to have a look at the sculpture, I would just sit there and smile. It was so surprising. It was so wonderful to just come upon this incredible sculpture popping out of the field in this very unlikely location. Was a very special experience. And then when the sculpture was sold and it moved to Chittenden County, it was a very sad day, frankly. It was kind of a metaphor of what's happening in Vermont, that all good things move to Chittenden County. And we've got to make every effort in this state to make sure that communities all over the state can be successful. And
Paul Brune and the Preservation Trust helped to get the land conserved, and at that point asked me about the possibility of doing another sculpture. And at this point in time, I had decided I was no longer planning to work in stone, but that I would love to make something in bronze, which would be along the lines of the original, but a little different design. Bronze casting is a process that involves collaborating with a foundry. In this case, the Polish Talix foundry in New York was one of the only ones capable of casting something this large. So I worked with them first by experimenting on a small scale with little plaster models, and I made these out of wire and screen and cardboard and applied plaster over the surface, and made probably 10 different versions of these tails in different sizes until I came up with the one that I felt would be the best for the large scale. At that point, I sent these models to the foundry, and they were able to use them to enlarge in foam by a digital scan of my models, so that the size of the pieces were exactly what I wanted, which was 16 feet tall and about 12 feet wide across the flukes. Once they roughed out these foam patterns, I was able to go and work on the foam, get it a little bit more to my liking, and then a layer of metal screen was applied on top of the foam, and about 3/4 of an inch of plaster on top of that. And from those patterns, molds were made in sand. And the pieces were cast in about, I would say, 6 different pieces, each one. After they were cast, they were welded together and ground down, finished what they call chasing of the bronze to get the smooth surface I was after. Finally, the patina, which is the application of chemicals with a torch that oxidize on the surface to make a color that can be anything from green, brown, black, as well as other colors. I was looking for mostly black with a little bit of green showing through in places. Well, it felt great to have the opportunity to do it again. It's not, I didn't think of it as doing the same thing again, because they're quite different, but obviously they're both two whales' tails. But I felt like I had a lot of years to think about what I had done originally and what I might like to do again, not really thinking I'd ever have the chance. So it was incredible to have this opportunity to try again.
this sculpture, the original sculpture, and we hope this sculpture will be one of those things that will help contribute to the efforts that are going on in this community to build a stronger downtown and village center up on the hill. I think that outdoor sculpture in general, really affects me at least, and I think others. It makes you stop for just a moment from our crazy days, where we're all running around dealing with all the things that we have to deal with in our lives, and then all of a sudden you see this sculpture and you stop for a moment and smile and calm down a little bit and have a little bit of respite in a busy day.